Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast. I'm John Haskell, and I'm here today with my good friend, Wally Olson. Wally, how are you?
Very good.
Very good. We are recording this in the spring, early summer of 2026. My kids have a week left of school. And we're going to talk a little about keeping your mind right while the market is high. And Wally, let's talk a little about what's been going on lately and how we can help people respond correctly to the current market.
Well, the big thing is you've just got to do the math. You know, you got to get back to the price doesn't matter. It's just do the math and relationship. Granted, we are working in astronomically high prices, in my humble opinion, and we may look back and say, well, God, they were cheap back then. We should have got more, But, you just got to do the math. And I'll be right honest with you, since I'm 74 and thinking about, God, I need to, probably be thinking about quitting sometime and want to get out on the top. Well, last year I did some risk management, and guess what? They weren't at the top, and it cost quite a bit of money to do it. I mean, the risk management did exactly what it was supposed to do, but I left a lot of money on the table. So, it just goes back to just doing the math.
Yep. And I think one of the things, whether prices are high or low, that we have to remember is it's not price that determines our profitability, right?
That is absolutely correct. It's the relationships.
Yep. And do we see opportunities for profit in the current market with prices as high as they are?
Well, to be right, it depends on what sector. If you're in the stocker business right now and you're a gain person, what I'm talking about, what you do is just put weight on cattle, that's iffy. I mean, it depends on, like I said, you have to do the math.
And one of the reasons we find that it's iffy now is a lot to do with the fact that your initial investment is high, right?
Your initial investment high and the value of gain is low.
Is not that high. Yep. But you got a lot of capital out there if you're buying stocker cattle. Yep. That's not sort of an across the board indictment. There are profit opportunities in there. You have to dig around a little carefully right now, right?
I mean, you just can't sit back and buy a 500-pound black calf and take him to grass and make him weigh 850 or 9 and sell him. I mean, you got to be looking at else, and in the stocker business, to me, where you make your money is in the service industry. And what I'm talking about there is weaning the calves, cutting the bulls, making them into load lots. You need to understand where your money's coming from.
Yep. All right. And how about in the cow-calf sector? What are you seeing there?
Well, the cow-calf sector, is, right now there's a tremendous trade from, selling an overvalued cow. And I'm not going to say whether she's 5 or 6 or 4 or whatever, but selling, due to the relationship.
Pregnant cow of some age, yes.
Yeah, trade back to a heifer calf is working wonderful, in my humble opinion, right now. And you got to deal with today. You can, somebody said, well, how do you know they're going to be high out back there, in the future? And I said, I don't, but I do know one thing, that right now this is a very good relationship, and you just do it and go forward.
Okay. And again, when we talk about dealing today and we look at those price ranges, are we predicting the future? Like, is that what's happening? Is that what we're trying to do?
No, I'm just looking at what's the best trade today. I'm not, because one thing people have to realize, well, God, what happens if they go down? Well, you got to understand that probably most of the beef complex, or all the animals, are going to go down. And the relationships probably won't change. You'll just be working in less money. Now, one thing will kill you right now, if you get to looking back, and I'll give you an example. If you give $500 for a heifer calf and, put some more money, $500 with her, now we have a $3,000 bred heifer. And the all you can sell the bred heifer for is $3,000. That sounds terrible, or even less. But if you look at buying the heifer calf back, if the bred heifer dropped that much, the heifer calf will probably dropped an equal percentage, and just sell her and go forward.
Yeah. Okay. And again, we want to always be looking at today, and we're always looking forward. We don't look back. There's literally nothing we can do about the price we paid for the animals that we have in our inventory. Right.
The biggest thing looking back will do is probably cause you indigestion.
Yep. Yeah. Very good. And just to give us an idea of the volatility here in the last couple of days, we have literally in a week's time seen the market go, the board trade, the feeder cattle contract for August trade as high as 366 and as low as like 345 and change. And so that is a huge spread for a short period of time. And I want to encourage everyone in this deal that does not mean that your profitability is going down. Often what that means is that there are a lot of profit opportunities, because the more the market swings around in there, the more chances there are for us to find good deals that get kind of left behind while everybody's not able to make a decision in that time period. That makes sense?
That is correct. And this is where time comes so important in your operation. You need to make sure you got time built into it, so you don't have to sell them now. Just like Sam Walton said back in 78, everybody was talking about how many millions or billions of dollars he had lost because his stock had went down 20%. And Sam said, well, I didn't lose anything because I didn't sell anything, So, you got to be prepared.
Okay, good. The other thing here, I think, when we look at the longer term trend, when we look at, your data, when we look at other people's data that are good at sell by marketing, the high market is not when they are most profitable. Now, if you're a cow-calf producer, that is probably different, right? Because your costs are basically fixed, and you already have the cows in inventory. If the price triples on selling your calves, like that tends to make you significantly more profitable. Not always, but can. But in the stocker business, what we see over and over again is that when markets are high is generally not when good sell-by traders make the most money. And it's certainly not when we see the highest return on asset ratio, right?
And like right now, the big thing is if you stay on a fixed amount of capital, your capacity's been cut in half or more. And so, just something to think about.
Good. And over again, what we're encouraging people to do is understand the relationships in the market, right? So they are looking for the value of gain. They have to know their costs of what does it cost them to keep one, right? Well, how much does it cost you to feed one for a day or a year? And then what is the relationship between those two things, right? So it's the relationship that's really important.
That is absolutely correct. It's like I said, people, it's just the relationships of the market and go forward. And one thing right now, if you're in the cow-calf business, it's a huge opportunity to build working capital or cash. There's some really good turn over that cow herd and collect that cash. I still cannot understand why people are so in love with longevity in a cow herd, but we just don't.
I can tell you why I am, because the last time the market was really high, I went and bought a bunch of 10-year-old cows, and I wanted all the longevity I could get out of those girls, but I was buying them. The market was very high, but I was buying them at coal prices, basically.
Yeah, I understand you were buying old cows, but I love running old cows. I'm buying old cows right now, but I would you don't want to make old cows.
So let's talk about that for just a minute, because I think that's an important distinction. We get this a lot when people have a herd of cows and they hear about your ideas on keeping your herd young. Do you recommend that if we have old cows, we sell those cows, or are those ones that we keep those because the depreciation's already happened to us?
That is correct. Everybody talks about, when they start into the turnover, they talk about, well, we'll sell the old cows down and then we'll get there. That isn't the way you do it. You figure out what's most overvalued in your herd and you sell it, and you keep what's undervalued, and probably it will be those older cows and your weaned heifer or your heifer calves
that are undervalued.
And so you just keep them, because the heifer calf is going to go up in value as you get her bred, and and she'll hold her value for a few years, and then she'll start creeping down. The old cows, they've already lost all their value, and so they just keep chugging along, kicking out calves.
And that assumes that you are able to take care of old cows and heifers without a lot of trouble, right? That you are good at knowing which cows you need to get rid of because they're not going to make it another season. And your heifers calve easily, right? That you're set up so that you're most likely calving on green grass and you're not spending a ton of labor to get those, with a live calf by their side, right?
Yep. Now, well, one thing everybody they can come up with 15 million reasons not to have, heifers around. And if you got a 20% turnover in your cow herd, you're in the heifer business. So if you got 50 heifers or 20 heifers and you move it up to 100, I promise you will not be out there very many more hours taking care of that. And if you breed them right, just don't go check them,
Yep. Now, we're not advocating for bad animal husbandry, right?
No,
we're always advocating for the appropriate amount of animal husbandry, but we're
That's
really
correct.
trying to do things like we are setting those animals up for success, right? With our bull selection, with our grass or feed management, with our pasture situation, et cetera.
That's correct.
Okay. And the same with old cows. I knew a guy from Star Valley, Wyoming, which is a terribly wintry place. And he was always described as a guy that really knew exactly when he needed to get rid of an old cow. And that is a bit of a skill. We've all kept old cows a little too long. And we know if we can get one more out of them, it can be really productive. But boy, don't push it too far, because if you don't get that one more and she dies, that level of depreciation is even worse than what we're seeing in the market. Right?
Yes. And the rules I go by, since I cannot pick there's old cows and there's spent cows, and a spent
Good.
cow
Let's talk about that.
is on her way out. And I have not learned how to identify a spent cow in the sale ring. Well, I should say one thing. If she doesn't have a real thrifty calf on her,
right, that calf's hair coat's not good. They're a little,
they just aren't robust and stuff. That's a spent cow. And then when you get her home, and if you worm her and just do some things and put her on good grass, and she hadn't picked up in 2 weeks, it's time to go gather her back up and take her back to sale, because she's on her way out.
Good. And I do you spend a lot of time doctoring those cows and all, or?
Nope.
Yeah.
Like I said, you worm them and turn them out on good grass. And if they don't pick up, you get, and it depends on where you're at, whether you even need to worm them.
Yeah. Good. Okay. But, and then on the heifer side, we've got them set up well to calve easily so that it doesn't take a ton of labor. And on the old cow side, we're making sure that we've got cows that are going to stay alive. And if we've got ones that are questionable, we'd just soon go ahead and get those on a kill floor while they're alive and still worth something.
That is correct. Like I said, I've done the research on the spent cows, and I promise you need to get rid of them. So,
want to sharpen your business skills without leaving the ranch? Our Ranch Right webinars cover everything from the financial basics to business strategy and tax prep, all taught by our own ranching and finance experts from the team at Ranch Right. Join us online, ask questions, and get practical tools you can put to work tomorrow. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to receive updates on our next session, and catch up on all of our past webinars by visiting and subscribing to Ranch Right LLC on YouTube. Over and over again, we see people get confused about the value of gain calculation for stockers. Can we run through that real quickly?
I got one other thing before we get off the cow deal. Let's talk about the heifer side. Everybody just gets in, by God, they don't breed back, Well, if you've got your heifer set up right and you put selection pressure on the heifers when they are, you're breeding them for the first time, you will not have that much trouble, in my humble opinion. If you got them on good green grass and this and that, they won't. And then look at the heifer that gets bred as a yearling, has a calf, and now is open. Well, she has given you a calf that pays for a whole lot of her costs. And then you just rebreed her for, 6 months out, and you resell her at probably close to the top of the market because she'll be fat and look good and all the above. And now, granted, if you're up in Montana, Wyoming, or wherever, it's going to be $100. I used to say $50, but $100 truck ride to wherever people like buying fall cows. And the next thing is everybody's going to get on to me about what a terrible business rebreeding cows is. And I said, I don't misrepresent them. And, there's people at my advanced age that just love buying rebred cows because they've calved once and they probably won't come up open again. And it's a good deal. And to be right honest with you, it's not bad to have some cows come up open because you get cash flow. You turn them over quicker. People don't understand the importance of turnover in the cow herd.
Yep. Yeah. And there's a right number of opens, right? We don't want too many, but those ones that you have produce cash.
I'm getting more to where, I don't mind young open cows.
Right. Good. Cows that still have value.
Yep.
All right, let's talk value again on the stocker side, because again, we started this conversation off by talking about the importance of relationships. I want to walk through this slowly just to make sure everybody understands it. And again, we get questions about this all the time. How do we figure out the relative value? How do we figure out the relationship? Where do you start?
Well, basically what you do is and I'll give you an example. We had a number of 625-pound steers ready to go to grass. Today, we did the value again, or we looked at what those, if they, those 600 would be weighing 875 or something. And we took the value of what that 875-pound steer was worth. And you subtract from it the value of the 625-pound steer, and you discovered you had about $150 spread there. Well, it's going to cost us $150 to graze them till August. And so, needless to say, the value again wasn't that great.
It was out. Okay, so here's what I'm going to walk through a few of these numbers real quickly with you. So if we go, I'm just going to go to the sale barn at Oklahoma City. Okay, so National Stockyards there. We have an 868-pound average there that sells for $347. And that works out to be, hang on one sec while I'm doing the math, about $3,000 per head, or $3,011 per head. And we owned 600 and something pound calves, right?
625.
Say 625. Good. So I've got a 627 out of their sale report from last week that sold for $435. Okay. And so that is 2,700 and change. So 2727. Okay. Now we're going to do some subtraction here. So what we do is we take the price per head, starting with the calf we're going to sell, and subtract the calf we're going to buy. So we get $284, and let's just call it $285. Keep the numbers reasonably round. And that is $285 to put on 241 pounds. And so if I divide the $284 by the 241 pounds, I get $1.18 per pound. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the $1.18 per pound is the value of gain. And I'm just going to want to run through this one more time. We're selling an 875 or an 868 in this case, but just call it an 875. We're selling a 625, or excuse me, we're buying or we own a 625. So we expect in the period we're going to own it until August, we expect 240 pounds of gain, which I think is pretty good. And we're going to make $285. Okay, that pays us $1.18. Now, our grass is not free. Is that correct, Wally?
It's $150.
Okay. And so what that means is that if we subtract $150 from the $285, that we only have $130 of profit in that calf if we own him for the next 3 or 4 months, right?
Yep.
Okay. And what's it cost us to run on that grass?
You mean other costs?
Well, I mean the cost of grass itself.
Oh, $150.
Yeah, I'm sorry, $150. We got that. What are the other costs?
Well, you're going to have interest, and just give me a second, and I will have interest for you.
And we don't have these calves contracted, right? So there's still some volatility in the market.
And you got $72 of interest in them.
Okay.
And then you will have salt and mineral or whatever, and you usually just could put in $25 for that.
All right. So that's $97. So now we've got 100. We took our $285 and we subtracted 150, we subtracted 72, and we subtracted 25.
Yeah. So you got a total of $247 of costs, and you've got $285 of income. So you got.
Sounds awesome. Is that what we want?
No, just, it depends. I mean,
if we wanted a tax break, maybe that's an easy way to do it.
It just depends. But the way we looked at it, we could take that grass and we could run that, and things people need to realize. I'm going to get on my soapbox here because I've just got done in a debate on Facebook about the cow is your factory and God, you can't sell the cow. My deal is the ranch or the farm or the grass is the factory, and what you're doing is selling that grass at its highest value. That is what your factory is. So you just, as soon as you can make the most money on that factory. And so what we looked at is today was a very good, we could buy, heifers to breed weighing 625 pounds or so for like $2,400. And we have just got through selling a bunch of bred heifers for $4,250. So what margin is that on there?
Tell me the numbers again, Wally.
It was $2,400 and $4,250, and that's $1,850 in margin.
Yep.
Now, granted,
you think we can withstand a little bit of problems at that level, right?
We can withstand a little bit of problems. Now, understand that we went from, owning these cattle for 100 days, moving it out to probably 200 days.
Yes, because we're going to have to get them preg checked. We're going to have to get them into a market that they'll sell.
There's lots of other moving parts, so you've got to have the ability to do that.
But we're still talking 200 days, right? Which is less than a year. I mean, if we're talking, now it's going to take us 3 years to be profitable, we're not interested in
that.
No, we are between selling one in August versus maybe selling one in November to January,
November to January, yes.
Okay. That fits within the cycle of our normal operations. And we have access to grass for that period too, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
And we sold it. We had to adjust our numbers down some for the more grass we were going to use, but that was fine. We're selling the grass at such a bigger margin.
Yep. Good. One other thing I want to emphasize with this value of gain calculation is that I often convert it to a price per pound, but we really need to make sure we look at the total. And so it's interesting when we look at these numbers, if you look at some different weight classes from National Livestock, for example, you can find places where you have a higher value of gain per pound. But when you look at the total gain and the fact that, for example, our summer grass cost is fixed, it can get ugly pretty quickly. And so make sure that you're looking at both of those numbers. One of the things that was a revolution to me when Bud first started talking about this is how important it is to look at the total price per head, not the price per pound, and then the total amount of money you're going to get paid for the gain. So let's say those calves that we sold for $868 or $875, let's call it, only didn't gain as well, and they only got to $775. Well, our value of gain for that is higher. It's only 150 pounds, but we only make $190, and we subtract the $150 grass bill and the same $75 interest charge. Then now we're upside down on that calf pretty quickly. So we've got to make sure that we are paying attention to that total dollars per head. And I don't know about you, but laying out $2,700 to make $37 over the course of 100 days, not a very good rate of return. We want the rate to be a little higher, and we want the total dollars to be higher, right?
That's correct. And there's thousands of steers in the Flint Hills this year that they're not going to get their grass bill back. I mean, they've just paid way too much money for them.
Yep. Good. Well, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. The market could run way up. You never know. but there are definitely years where people run stalker cattle out on grass for $0, right? Or less.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I've even done it.
I
wasn't planning on it.
I remember a few times you trying to sell me into a steer deal where maybe there wasn't a lot of gain and I could buy in at the end.
I even had some dead ones thrown in there to sell to you too.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, Wally Olson, thank you very much. I appreciate you talking about this. I think the more we do this, the more it is important. And you've proven it with your own experiments. If you start to get panicky and try to do some other things to mitigate your risk besides using sell-by marketing, they usually wind up costing you money and not providing a lot of return, right?
Yes. I want to say one thing that Bud did, and just like this market drop that, because we got some heifers I don't know if we need to sell them, but they were, and we were taught they were getting close to the trigger point, and then this break came, and if you had your heart set on selling them, you're going to be in a state of depression and stuff and different things. But Bud talked about, and he played high stakes poker, and he was in this game, and there was this older guy playing there, and Bud was fiddling around not bidding, and the guy finally said, Bud, it said, it's not your life and it's not your wife, just bid. That's the same way we're here. Just be patient and it'll come back.
Good. And again, the worst thing you can do is lock up, right?
Well, that's right.
Make a decision. I'm happier with an incorrect decision than I am with no decision.
That's correct. Well, no decision is a decision.
Well, it is a decision, but it's also just sort of you throwing your life to the fates. And I don't want to do that. I want to be pretty proactive as I can there. And the reason to understand this value gain equation as well as you do is so you can use it quickly. You need it. You need it to be moving fast. You need to be able to make a decision quickly and commit and go with it. And if you've made the wrong decision or if your decision is not quite right, that's fine. You get a chance to do it better the next time.
That is one place that I'm really proud of the people at ranching.fyi now and their SIM. It gets your muscle memory to make decisions quickly. And I would highly recommend for anybody to check out ranching.fyi and go from there.
Awesome. Okay, good. And let's add to that. You do a weekly market Q&A?
Market Pulse, Brian Munger and I do every Monday morning at 7:30.
7:30 Central, 6:30 Mountain. Good.
Yeah. So just be there. You gotta go through ranching.fyi to get on there. And if you're not completely happy with it, we'll send your money back. How's that?
Sounds great. Wally, thank you for everything you've taught us over the years. Thanks for continuing to work on this. And have a great day. We'll talk soon.
You bet.
Okay. Thank you for tuning into the Ranchnomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.